This is Paul Schneiderman today on the 77th edition of Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio. I have a very special guest today. Joe, can you kindly pronounce your last name for me? I don't want to bungle it.
DeLamielleure.
Joe DeLamielleure, a very famous football player. And Joe, he's also known as Joe D. Joe was inducted in the Canton Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2003. And Joe, I may need a little help on your last name again. I have a bad habit of bungling names, so please bear with me. I was actually at the Canton Hall of Fame last year, and I saw Joe's sculpture there. Before I go further with this interview with Joe DeLamielleure, I want to mention some housekeeping things going on. Lucius Tenebress is my engineer today. Lucius does a lot of good things at Rainier Avenue Radio. Our station's based in Seattle on the World Wide Web. We have sports shows, political shows, lifestyle shows, music shows, the whole gamut. We have several other sports shows on our station hosted by Rick Dupree, Granville Emerson, Renaud Laurent. Mazzuta Marari hosts a show, Seattle Sports Weekly. Mark Bryant hosts a fitness-based show. Well, Joe, let me get back to you. Joe DeLamielleure, as I mentioned earlier, was inducted
to DeLamielleure.
DeLamielleure.
It rhymes with Cavalier. Just put
okay, I like that. Thank you so much,
that
Joe.
Makes it easier.
I really appreciate your help. Joe DeLamielleure was inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2003. He was an offensive tackle. Had 2 stints with the Buffalo Bills, 1 stint with the Cleveland Browns. He also played for a year with the Charlotte Rage of the Arena League. Joe D's a member of the 1970s All-Decade Team, a prominent blocker for the Buffalo Bills, a big part of the offensive line known as the Electric Company. O.J. Simpson was the prominent running back that he blocked for heavily. A 6-time Pro Bowler, member of the Michigan Hall of Fame. He's also been involved in all sorts of charitable and religious causes, All-American at Michigan State. Well, Joe, we're going to have a good conversation today about your career. Definitely hit on some contemporary issues, and I really appreciate you coming on Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Thank you. I'm glad to talk about some things, whatever you want to talk about.
Oh, I appreciate it. Well, thanks for doing this.
And I played guard, not tackle. I was a guard.
Guard. Gotcha.
Much smarter than tackle.
There you go. Yeah. Joe, you grew up in a big family in Michigan. Football's obviously been a big part of your life. Tell us a little bit how you got the football bug.
Well, I'm the 9th of 10 kids, and my 2 older brothers. I have 4 older brothers and 5 sisters, but my 2 older brothers played football, and I was old enough to watch them and go play with them. And they helped me, and I always wanted to be around them. We played sports. We just didn't play football. Any sport that happened, we played. I mean, as soon as football's over, we all played basketball. We all played baseball. We ran track. And basically what happened was all the boys were playing sports, and my mother said that she actually encouraged us to because we only had a bath. We didn't have a shower. We had 10 kids, and my mother said, you guys got to start taking showers over at the school because you stink. So that's how everybody got involved in sports. It was kind of a necessity out of need because we didn't have a shower in our house. We had a bathtub. That was it.
Yeah, I got the sports bug. You had a great career. Football's really a big part of your life, and your faith's been a big part of your life. Your Catholic faith, hasn't it?
Yeah, I went to Catholic school. Obviously, when anytime you tell somebody you got 10 children in your family, or you're one of 10, they say, "What are you, Catholic?" And I married my wife. She's the oldest of 8, and we went to Catholic grade in high school together. Then we were married at Michigan State. So we're Catholic. I go to Mass every day. I went today, in fact. Got a lot to pray for all the time.
Big family. Big family.
Yeah,
a lot of
big
people.
Family. We have 4 children, and we adopted 2 Korean boys, and we raised 3 other boys. 2 of them were African American, so we've had the United Nations. They're all gone now, and we have 12 grandkids. So.
Wow, very diverse.
Yeah.
Joe, I'm struggling a little bit pronouncing your last name, and I've been aware.
Just say Joe D.
Joe D. I've been familiar with your career for many years. Why don't you share with us the ethnic origins of your last name? It's a unique last name you have.
It's Belgium. My father's family's from Belgium, and then they came over, and they were like first generation. That's what it means. They actually, if you look at DeLamielleure, people speak French because French is Flemish, the same type of language. It means one of the best. So somebody back in the day was one of the best of something. So who knows? So when I played in Buffalo, which is near Canada, everybody say, "Hey, your name means one of the best." So I said, "Oh, great. That's nice to know." But my dad was Belgian, my mother was German, and we lived in a city. We were born in Detroit, but we lived in a city called Centerline, and it was 1 mile by 1 mile, surrounded by Detroit, basically. And then it was called Centerline because that's where they made the center lines for the roads that we all drive on way back when in the day.
Didn't know that. Well, you have a Joe. You have a Hall of Fame last name, literally and figuratively. How's that?
How about this? I'm the biggest name in the Hall of Fame. Not the biggest, but the longest.
It's a little trivial pursuit fact there.
Yeah, Ben Roethlisberger someday will be the longest name, but right now I'm the longest name in the NFL.
Well, I got some more Hall of Fame questions for you. I love that little factoid there. Joe, you played at Michigan State University, had a great career there, and you definitely played in a different era. Why don't you share with me a couple highlights of your Michigan State days? And if you got a minute, give me some thoughts on where you are in this whole college pay debate.
Okay. Michigan State was, it's 70 miles from Detroit, so it was a pretty easy school to go to. And Duffy Doherty was a Catholic coach, but he was coaching at Michigan State. And believe it or not, that played a huge factor in me going to Michigan State because my mom and dad wanted me to go to I wanted to go to Notre Dame, but Parseesian was Protestant. So my dad said, no, you go to Michigan State because Duffy's Catholic. I go, yeah, right. I don't know what I was thinking about. So that's how I actually went. It was actually about my third choice. I wanted to go to Michigan, but I was Bo's first recruit, Bo Schembechler. My dad said he couldn't pronounce Schembechler. Like, you're having a problem with my name?
Right.
So I went to Michigan State because Duffy's Catholic. And that was the only reason, actually.
Isn't that something? And where are you in this whole – give me a minute or so if you got – where are you in this whole college pay debate these days, Joe?
I think they should be paid something. I don't see why coaches get paid millions of dollars. I mean, God bless them. They're all, they're in charge of a university making a lot of money for them. But the players are the people who make the money for them. And I think all college students should be. I have 3 girls, and my son married a girl who was one of my sons married a girl who played at South Carolina. Her other sister played at Duke, and the other one played at North Carolina State in soccer. But they should have some sort of stipend for the kids who play because it's basically a full-time job. You think you're going to go, oh, my kid's getting a scholarship. They're going to Michigan State. Well, you work 35, 40 hours a week. And I don't want to say work, you play because you're practicing. But you have time spent away from the books and away from everything else. And like when we were at college, we had no money. I mean, most kids who play at college, they don't have money in the first place. You don't find a lot of really wealthy kids playing college sports unless it's, not especially football. So these kids, a lot of them come from, not wealthy people where it's a sacrifice. Their parents are giving them money every week because they can't work. I think it'd be a good idea to pay the players just because you're basically taking up 40 hours or 35 to 40 hours a week practicing. So somebody should compensate those people because they can't work. If I weren't playing at Michigan State and I went to Michigan State, I would have had to have a part-time job so I could go there. And that's basically what it is. And I coached at Duke and I recruited a lot of kids. Those kids weren't wealthy, and it was a sacrifice for their parents to, have to buy them stuff to send them to Duke, even if they're on a scholarship. So if the sports are making that much money, they can afford to give kids something. I'm not saying make them rich. I'm saying, $300 or $400 a month so they can go out and be with the rest of the college students.
Yeah,
there's one problem though is colleges are going to say, hey, we'll give you more than this school. That's the problem. How do you police that? I don't know. But I do think athletes should get something. And another thing I think athletes should have trade schools at colleges. A lot of kids aren't, they have no interest in studies. But guess what? They got other gifts. I have a son who struggled through school, an adopted son, a Korean son, who could barely, he had a difficult time reading the whole time. I think his SAT was probably like 630 or 640, something like that. I don't even know what it was. But he went to Grumman, the apprentice school, and became, they teach people how to be an apprentice. You build ships. And he's at Grumman. He's 36 years old, and he's a superintendent, or not a superintendent, a supervisor.
Great.
The guy's making great money. And just because you can't do things academically doesn't mean you're not worthy of something. And I got my other Korean son, he went to school for a while. He didn't like it. Moved in with my oldest daughter and her husband. They're in real estate. He's done fantastic. He's a big shot for a real estate guy. He's 35 years old. He didn't graduate from college, but he learned the real estate business. Just because I think college is overrated, because I think it's good to have for special things, but I don't think everybody is made for college, or you have to go to college for. We're losing a lot of really good people who aren't going into trades and sales and things like that. I mean, what good's a political science degree do you? I mean, think about it. What did they teach you that was so good, unless you're doing political science? I never could understand that. I graduated in criminal justice. So my college roommate graduated in criminal justice and became the director of the Secret Service under the Clintons. So when we were football players, my other roommate came to Michigan State with, he literally had a 630 SAT, was put in an orphanage when he was like 11 years old, got out, some foster people got him. He came to Michigan State, and he's a PhD now, even for special education. So you can't, I think the general public thinks that, oh, these athletes want money. Well, that's what they want now because how society has changed. But we need to wise up and change things in our society with things like that. I'm familiar with sports, and I just cannot believe that coaches make $12, $13 million to coach, and the kids who play get nothing other than you say you get an education. How many actually graduate too? That'd be a good statistic. How many kids graduate from college? They play 4 years of football, fill the stands, and then they don't get that. And maybe you should give them a degree, but it's hard to earn if you're not qualified. You're not an academic. A lot of kids aren't academic. I was the only one to go to college in my family.
Isn't that
the only
something?
One, 9 of 10 kids. So
you bring up a lot of excellent points,
yeah.
Joe. And one thing you brought up,
they're all success. They're all mechanics, landscape people. One worked for GM. One had his own landscape company. Everybody's done pretty good.
You bring up some excellent points. And one point you brought up that's made me think more is why shouldn't a lot of these kids get trade school credits while playing college sports? That's a really good point. This is Paul Steinman, host of Sports and Stuff on Rainier Avenue Radio, with Pro Football Hall of Fame member Joe DeLamielleure. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
Thanks for all your help. I'm embarrassed.
You can mispronounce it. That's fine.
No, I don't want to mispronounce it.
That doesn't hurt my feelings.
I feel a little.
Ask me how they spell that. I go Joe.
Okay. You're sweet. Appreciate it. And I feel a little less guilty that your father had promised pronouncing Bo Schlemblicher's last name, which I probably mispronounced. So, yeah. But you brought some really good points, and I think college isn't, normal college academic studies maybe aren't the course for every person. All right, I got it.
Our coach at Michigan State he's the one who put that idea in our heads way back when, because he'd get upset with administration because he said, I think it's wrong. We're missing a lot of talent out there that doesn't come to and play football, but they're also not giving these kids a chance because they could. If you came to the university, wouldn't you like to know how to fix your TV or, back in the day, or fix your cars, or, do anything? There's a lot of trades that you can learn and would have helped the university. But
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. No, you brought some excellent points. You played for some of those great Buffalo Bills teams, 1970s, and you were part of that electric company offensive line you regard. And I know you have a long-time tie to O.J. Simpson. I know you probably get a lot of questions about O.J. Simpson, but I want to ask you something. You brought up something very fascinating, Joe, and you're going through some CTE symptoms yourself, I've read. Yeah. And you brought up something that I never thought of when I listened to one of your interviews recently. You suggested O.J. Simpson may have some symptoms of CTE. Let me ask something, Joe. Do you think if O.J. were tested and if it were confirmed he has some CTE symptoms, that his legacy could be looked at maybe a little bit more gently by some people?
No, I don't know how it'd be looked at, but I think if you give people scans, PET scans for your brain, I'd say most people who played in our day of football have that. So they have some type of tau in their brain. Now, if you have CTE, they kind of hype that up too. Like I was diagnosed with CTE with stage 3. My wife asked Dr. Amalo, what's stage 4? And he says, that's all the autopsies. That was 8 years ago. I'm totally fine. I mean, there's things that I'm going to be 70 years old. There's things you forget. But when you played football, we practiced 6 weeks before the season. We hit every day, twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. They've changed the game today. It's totally different, which I'm glad they did, because when we played, guys hit their head all the time. And somebody said to me, you think OJ could have CTE? I said, I think anybody who played in that day could have it. The closer you got to the ball, Dr. Amalo said, who wrote he's the one that came out with concussions. He said, right. I asked him, I said, Dr. Amalo, who has CTE? He said, the closer to the ball you play, the more likely you are to have it. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, the centers, the 2 guards, 2 defensive tackles, and the middle linebackers. And if you look at who died, look at the players who died. Mike Webster, Mike Mottler, who I played with, Forrest Blue. I can name 10 centers that have passed away. Well, guess what? Every time they snap the ball, they slap them in the head. There's no head slap. No head slaps are allowed anymore. I played on a wedge for 13 years. That was the most dangerous play in football. They removed that from the game, which is good. A wedge was you're the 4 guys deep, and then they kick the ball off, and these maniacs come down. We used to call them wedge breakers, come down and fly into the wedge. Well, they don't do that anymore. That's good. They made the game a lot better. It's a lot safer. But guys who played in our era, we have injuries, and that's why I always fought for the retired guys, because we're the guys who made all the sacrifices for these guys to make all this big money, because we thought if people got better pensions, we thought when we were older, if the leagues make more money, you're naturally going to get more pension, right? Well, we finally got a little bit more, but it's still not enough for what the league is making in proportion. Like we have the worst pensions in all of sports, way worse than baseball, basketball, and hockey. But it's better. It got better this last time. But they settled it right before the virus came out, thank God. And John Reagan's and his wife and Jim Brown and Dick Butkus, all those guys stood up and said, hey, we need to help these guys. We had guys who are, they're really destitute, who played in the NFL for 10, 12, 13 years.
Terrible. And
my pension, before this pension increase, I was making $29,000 a year total. And that's before taxes and no health care. That's for 13 years in that league. And if I played baseball, I'd be making $200,000 a year.
Right.
So, I mean, thank God they gave us a little bit. They gave us a little bit of dignity, but nothing we're compared with these current players are making. And when I played when I signed my contract, I signed a 5-year contract, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30. And a $30,000 bonus. That was 1973. Teachers were making about $10,000. I was making 22 as a first-round pick. But the difference is, if they didn't want you after one game, they say, the general manager told me, if you're now good after one game, that's all you get, $1,200. We don't owe you a penny on your contract. The contracts are non-guaranteed. So nobody knows that, because you can't get it out, because the media owns the voice of America. How can we get that felt? We tried for years. We were lucky we got Lisa Marie Reagan's, and you should look this up. It's called FAIR, FAIR. You want to have a great conversation? Call FAIR and ask Lisa Marie that's John Reagan's wife. She's the one who went to battle with 5 other wives. My wife was one of them. And we got pensions increased for these guys. And we actually brought in the 3-year guys. We had 3 years in the league. You used to have 5 years in the league when I played. You had to play 5 years, 3 games in your 5th year to be eligible for a pension. And guess what? You know what the average career was back then?
4 years. 4.5.
4.5, yeah. Then guess what? We dropped it to 4. Guess what? It dropped to 3.5.
Right.
Yeah, because it was out of reach with everybody.
Right.
But I'm glad we got it. I'm glad I played football because it enabled me to go to college. It enabled me to adopt a couple kids. No way these kids would be in this country. And they're productive citizens. I mean, these kids are sharp as tacks. Because, you know why? We had discipline for them. My wife made them get up, make the bed, clean the house, work around the house. There were rules. You can't tell people nowadays, oh, John, everybody gets a trophy. Geez, when I was a kid, if you didn't win first place, you didn't get a trophy. Everybody gives everybody a trophy. Oh, it's so nice. Johnny played on a team. Did he ever play? No. How do you get a trophy? People don't want to know that you have to earn things. And now this is the state of our country, which is still the greatest country on the earth. But we dummy education down. I got a couple daughters who are in school systems. I went to Catholic school. No, my mother always said, you better beat that phone call home if you got in trouble. So, we knew right from the get who's in charge. The teachers are in charge. And there was, I have bad teachers. Well, there's bad everything. There's bad about this whole issue here. There's bad policemen. There's bad everything. But there are mostly 99% of them or 90%. I don't know the percentage. Most people are good.
For sure. Joe, we got less than 5 minutes left. You gave a great answer. I actually had a couple of questions for you about labor issues, but you added a lot in there about some of the work you've done on the NFL pension issues and so forth.
Call Lisa Marie Reagan's. Get a hold of her. You can go online and get it. FAIR, FAIR.
FAIR, I'll take a look at it. Yeah. John Reagan's wife is involved in it.
Yeah, that's a conversation you should have with everybody. They'd understand football a lot better.
Yeah, no, I'd like to appreciate that resource. I think my listeners will appreciate it as well. Joe, you got that call to be a member of the NFL Hall of Fame class back in 2003. I got 2 Hall of Fame questions for you, Joe. What was your reaction when you got that call? And my second Hall of Fame question for you is, can you mention 1 or 2 NFL people that are not in the Hall of Fame that you think should be in?
Absolutely. The call was unbelievable because I waited 13 years. I didn't even know the process of the NFL. Or how to get in the Hall of Fame. But anyhow, I got in after 13 years of being eligible. I didn't even know. I paid no attention to it because I never thought I'd get in the Hall of Fame. So when I got in the Hall of Fame, I was blown away. So holy cow. And then I was more excited for my family and my wife's family than myself, honestly, and my children. Because I don't want, when I die, I don't want my kids to say, boy, what a great football player. I want them to say, man, that guy had a great sense of humor. He was a good dad.
Sure.
We had a lot of fun. And then if you want to know some Hall of Fame, there's so many guys who should be in. George Kuntz, I'll give a couple offensive linemen, George Kuntz and Joe Jacoby, Clay Matthews, who is a USC guy, but Clay Matthews is a second leading tackler of all time. He's not in the Hall of Fame. He played 19 years. Kenny Anderson was at most of the time was the all-time leading completion guy. Played with the Bengals. He's not in. And I could go on and on. There's so many guys that they could have a little Hall of Fame. They could have 20 more guys added into the senior list. I mean, Bob Brown, who lives out there in Washington, I think he lives in Seattle. He went in as a senior. Bob Brown was the greatest offensive lineman to ever play, in my opinion. It took him 20 years to get in. He played for the Philadelphia Eagles, but he lives in Seattle. His son's a lawyer out there. He's a little bit older than me.
Brought some great names.
Yeah, and I mean, it's amazing. What's more amazing to me is how great the men are who are in there. I mean, these guys are good guys. They're like top of the notch. I think if you make the Hall of Fame, especially our era, you really had to put your nose to the grindstone because we all work 2 jobs. everybody worked two jobs. Nobody, I don't know one player who played in the 70s and early 80s who wasn't working in the off season. I was an Erie County Sheriff's deputy during the off season, and when I got off work, I'd go work out at the stadium. You know, there were no team things. There was no training table at the facilities like there are now. My wife used to make lunch for all the offensive linemen, and then the wives would take turns. Yeah, now you go there, they have their own chefs. You can get your haircut at the stadium, and they'll wash your car and take your clothes to the cleaners. Who built this league? The guys who played before them, and they don't get, basically, we got a little bit of a bump. Good. But they have no idea of the history of the game. None.
I hear that from a lot of athletes, Joe, of your era. They feel that some of the younger players don't recognize history. Joe, we got less than a minute left. I got so many more questions I would like to ask you. Maybe we can have a chat again sometime. What does the future hold for you, Joe?
Well, my son and I, we train people, and my son is really good. It's I'll give you this website so people listening to this can maybe look online and see it. It's hof-solutions.com. And my son's he's an incredible. He was a fireman. He graduated from Duke. I said, Todd, he graduated in 3.5 years ago. That's pretty amazing. And he was captain of the team. So that's pretty amazing. He goes, Dad, don't worry, I'm never going to wear a tie. And he became a firefighter and hurt his shoulder playing football, so he couldn't put on an air pack anymore. So we started our own business where he trains people, and we're doing pretty good with it because he's good at what he does. His name is Todd. A lot smarter, a lot better looking than me.
Well, you're selling yourself short, Joe. Joe, I really appreciate you doing this discussion. These 27 interviews just go so fast. Learned a lot from you today, and I really appreciate you stopping by on Sports and Stuff on RainierAvenueRadio.world.
Okay, thank you for having me.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.